we got our first child, who had spina bifida herself, Alicia, and my wife wrote to the English organization for spina bifida just to get information, because it took us 3 months before we got information that even Alicia could be treated. So it was already a cooperation with the English ones, and when I started the Belgian organization, at the same time Björn Grönström was running around Europe to find spina bifida organizations. It was all the same period, but he couldn't find us. So I started the Belgian organization with my wife, and 2 years later I attended the conference in Malaga, and that's how I got involved in IF. And then after the conference in Malaga, I went to the conference in Manchester 2 years later. It was biannual at that time. And there I was asked to become a board member and to organize the next conference. So then I organized the conference in Belgium. And so I became involved in IF. So I was president of the Belgian organization, but my daughter died when she was 11. And then I stopped as president of the Belgian Association. In 1995, I became president of IF. But in the beginning it was IF Charter, so it was a part of IF, and also the logo was IF Charter. It was the same IF logo, then with Charter. So because you know, the biggest changes in the environment of spina bifida is the prenatal selection. It means that in the north of the world, nearly no children are born anymore because they're all eliminated by prenatal screening. And in a way, spina bifida became a disability of the South. And that's the reason we started already in 1993 with a small workshop on rehabilitation, international conference in Nairobi. We started to work as if in developing countries. And we started small programs, in beginning with Flemish governmental funding, and then mainly with Norwegian funding. And with the Norwegian funding, it was able to start 6 projects in Africa. But these projects were so successful that the Norwegian funding was not sufficient anymore. So, and then I started in 2017 Charter. I was still president of IF, just to do fundraising for the projects in developing countries. Oh, the fascinating thing about our work is that mothers are mothers and children are children, and the similarities are always bigger than the differences. That's what I like in the work. And of course, when there's no treatment, there is no hope, there is no future with these children. But once there is treatment and hope, you will see that African mothers are coping in the same way with their children than we do. So they are very strong, they're very motivated, they're very caring. So I see differences more in the conditions, but not in the human beings. Well, I think we have so good examples of how meaningful life with spina bifida can be. Let's think about our president, who is a doctor, geneticist, and has spina bifida. I know several doctors, I know lawyers, I know people with a full life, mothers, fathers, who have spina bifida themselves. So it's very important to tell them that the life will be challenging, it will not be easy, but there is the possibility of a meaningful life. So it is important for parents to see a future for their child, otherwise they will not invest in their child.